What's up, what's up, what's up? Welcome to the Sunday sermon with Mike, your mentor. Appreciate you guys being here. If you're watching this in real time, do me a favor and throw up a hashtag live in the comments. And if you're watching this on the replay, if you'll hashtag replay, I'd appreciate it. Got some good stuff to talk about tonight and share with you guys. If you're new to this page, welcome, right? There is a serious problem in society, in the world. There's a lot of serious problems, actually. If you turn on the news or you look outside your window and you see what's going on, and it's my opinion that everything that is going on at some fundamental level is a result of men not accepting the responsibilities that they've been given in life. So the purpose of this page is to help call men to answer the higher calling that they have on their lives as husbands, as fathers, as leaders in their community, as friends, because for a long time now we haven't answered that calling, and as a result society is eating itself from the inside out. And in order for that to stop, we as men need to take a hard look on the mirror at ourselves and hold ourselves more accountable for what we've been given in our lives to steward over. So I appreciate you guys checking this out. And everything that I talk about, or I should say the majority of things that I talk about, they've come out of my own search to understand what it really means to be a man. Society dictates all these types of things, all these kinds of things that we need to do, follow, cars we need to drive, material things we need to own in order to be a man, and it's really just all BS. In order for us to really understand what being a man means, we have to deal with a lot of issues from our past. A lot of things that we've taken and we've stuffed deep down inside ourselves and never, one, either addressed those and dealt with them, or two, continued to ignore them and not want to go deal with those things. And there's a lot of things that, or there's a process that needs to take place in order to do that, and I talk a lot about that on this page. But if we're ever to find real healing as men and bring back honor to our culture and change things, not just for ourselves, but more importantly for our kids and our grandkids, and one day our great-great-grandkids, and have this world be something that they can be proud of and be invested in making a better place, then it starts with us, and it starts at home as men. So the purpose of the Sunday sermon is just to share different topics that God's placed on my heart with you guys, and to just share about my life and how I deal with those things. Not to boast or brag by any means, but just to be vulnerable and to show you guys some of the work that I've had to do myself in order to get to where I am as a person. And a lot of times it was hard work, right? It was uncomfortable. It was dealing with things that I didn't want to deal with. It was dealing with feelings that I didn't want to address, and I'm still going through a lot of that work every single day. But that's my goal in the Sunday sermon, is just to share some practical tips to help us be better men and to answer that calling. So let me share my screen and we'll jump into tonight's Sunday sermon. Don't mind Belle. She's a little fussy tonight. All right. All right, here we go. Sunday sermon, week 32. Where has the year gone? Holy cow. Kids start school tomorrow. And it's time to get back into some sort of a normal routine versus the running wild during summer. But yeah, so this is talking about the power of self-awareness, right? And the way that I think that this picture is appropriate because it it shows the different sides of the brain, right? There's been multiple studies done about the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. One side is very logical, and some people tend to use that more, and one side is extremely creative, and some people tend to use that more. Interesting little story for you to kick this off tonight. So I've been a loan processor and loan originator for 13 years. So basically I help people finance their homes. And I did a loan for a guy one time, and I got his tax returns, and it was probably the most amount of money that I've ever seen on paper. And that is, he made $40 million in 1 year, right? It's crazy. This guy was super brainiac. He wrote algorithms for trading banks and for their platforms. So he made them obviously a lot of money on what he did, and in turn he made a lot of money. But this guy was completely left brain. I think that's the logic part. This picture might be backwards, but don't hold me to it. So much so that he couldn't understand simple things. So for example, we use this technology that allows you to electrically sign documents or digitally sign documents called DocuSign. And I would send him something to sign, and literally he would call me 5 minutes later telling me how he couldn't figure out how to get it to work. And literally it was an email that comes across on your end. It tells you a little description of what might be included on the document and what the password is, and you literally hit a button. It takes you inside to another screen. You type in the password, and then it brings you to the document. It already creates a signature and an initial for you. You hit start, and then it'll walk you through the document on each place where you need to basically tap the enter button, and it will put in your signature as well as your initials. And that was just extremely difficult for him because his brain didn't function like that, right? But when it came to complex math problems, those were extremely simple to him. So I just think that was an interesting story, and just makes me think of the difference between the left brain and the right brain. So in the book of Proverbs it says, "Blessed is the one who finds wisdom and the one who gets understanding. For the gain from her is better than the gain from silver, and her profit better than gold. She is more precious than jewels, and nothing you desire can compare with her." Right? So this is talking about being able to find wisdom and getting understanding, and what you get from those two things, and how nothing in the world compares with those. And it's extremely important because nowadays people have a lot of knowledge, but they lack understanding, or they have a lot of knowledge but they lack wisdom. John C. Maxwell said, "Knowledge, understanding, and wisdom will not seek you out. You must go out and acquire it." So here's some tools for self-discovery that I've used myself, and that you can use as well along your journey. So the first one is the Myers-Briggs personality test, and I talked a little bit about this before, but it basically asks you a bunch of questions, and then it assigns you a different personality according to the way you answered those questions. And my personality was the defender, and I guess the technical classification for that would be ISFJ-A. I don't remember what all that means, but basically it said my strengths are being supportive, being reliable, and being patient. I'm imaginative and observant. I'm enthusiastic, loyal, hardworking, and I have good practical skills. And I would say that those are all like right on. I mean, it's crazy how this test pinpointed all of those things inside of me. Also said my weaknesses are that I'm humble and shy. I take things too personally. I repress my feelings. I overload myself. I'm reluctant to change, and I'm too altruistic. And once again, those are all right on. And there's different thoughts, schools of thought, right, when it comes to these things. So some people say you should only focus on your strengths and making those better and not paying any attention to your weaknesses. The other school of thought says that you should only focus completely on making your weaknesses better, and your strengths will grow along on their own. So I don't know if I have an opinion one way or another. Typically, I'm working on both my strengths and my weaknesses, and just bouncing back and forth from both of those. Then the next tool that I recommend is called the John Maxwell Leadership Assessment. And in this assessment, on answering the questions, it says that I'm a cautious communicator, I'm fact and task orientated, I'm formal and proper, and I ask pertinent questions, which is definitely the way that I tend to operate, right? Like I'm a fact finder. I like to know a lot about something before I make a decision or I move forward. For the most part, I do occasionally make snap decisions or compulsive decisions, but not for the most part. I typically try to take my time and weigh out pros and cons of the things that I'm going to do. Then the next thing that I recommend is the Gallup Strengths or Strength Finders, and you can find it at that website. And this is interesting too, right? It's another test that you can take to learn more about yourself. And I'm going to share a little bit about these things with you. So what it does is there is, I don't know how many are in here. There's 34 different themes that say that you act in, or that you can act in, and then it assigns 5 of the most dominant themes to you, and then it describes in what order these things play out in your life. So I'll just share a couple of these with you, give you an idea. So the first one for me is learner, and it says you love to learn the subject matter that interests you most will be determined by your other themes and experiences, but whatever the subject, you will always be drawn to the process of learning. The process, more than the content or the result, is especially exciting for you. You are energized by the steady and deliberate journey from ignorance to competence. And then it goes on and on. The next one is achiever. Let's see here. Achiever. Your achiever theme helps you explain your drive. Achiever describes a constant need for achievement. You feel as if every day starts at zero. By the end of the day, you must achieve something tangible in order to feel good about yourself. And by every day, you mean every single day. Work days, weekends, vacations. No matter how much you feel you deserve a day of rest, if the day passes without some form of achievement, no matter how small, you will feel dissatisfied. And then it goes on more. That's pretty spot on. And then what's next? Harmony. You know, these are all interesting, right? Even the ones that I didn't, the themes that were not assigned to me. And one thing you got to be careful when you're doing these tests, right, is coveting other answers or other themes, right? And what that's really saying is that you're not satisfied with who God made you to be, and that can be a very slippery slope. So just a word of warning. All right, harmony. You look for areas of agreement. In your view, there is little to be gained from conflict and friction, so you seek to hold them to a minimum. When you know that people around you hold different views, you try to find some common ground. You try to steer them away from confrontation and towards harmony. In fact, harmony is one of your guiding values. You can't quite believe how much time is wasted by people trying to impose their views on others. Wouldn't we all be more productive if we kept our opinions in check and instead look for consensus and support? And then it goes on. You know, and this one's definitely interesting. At times it's done a lot for me, but at other times it's got me in trouble as I interject myself into certain situations trying to bring peace to the situation. Next is the arranger. You are a conductor. When faced with a complex situation involving many factors, you enjoy managing all of the variables, aligning and realigning them until you are sure you have arranged them in the most productive configuration possible. In your mind, there is nothing special about what you are doing. You are simply trying to figure out the best way to get things done. And then it goes on. And so not only does it give a description, but it gives ideas for taking action in each one of these. So I highly recommend it. And then finally, the last one here is realtor. And this doesn't mean someone who sells you a home. It says, realtor describes your attitude towards your relationships. In simple terms, the realtor theme pulls you towards people you already know. You do not necessarily shy away from meeting new people. In fact, you may have other themes that cause you to enjoy the thrill of turning strangers into friends, but you do derive a great deal of pleasure and strength from being around your close friends. You are comfortable with intimacy. Once the initial connection has been made, you deliberately encourage a deepening of the relationship. You want to understand their feelings, their goals, their fears, and their dreams, and you want them to understand yours. And then it goes on. And I'd say that's 100% true. Often I get into not disagreements, but I've been told, that I need to back off maybe a little bit. Some people, they just want to do small talk, right? They want to talk about the weather and other types of things. That doesn't excite me, and sometimes that's hard for me to do, right? It seems it seems somewhat fake at times, and just not real, right? So I want to always go deeper. I want to know the person I'm talking to and really find out what makes them tick or why they think like they think. Not because I want to judge them, or and I know sometimes that's what it comes across as. But I really value people, and I really value why they believe things they believe and why they think what they think, and it really does fascinate me. So I have to be cautious of when I make a new friendship of not giving them the 20 question interrogation. So that's it for that one. The next one is spiritual gifts, right? So we have mind, body, and soul. So we don't want to neglect the spiritual gifts that are in all of us, right? And this is a great test that you can take to learn these about yourself. So I have the spiritual gift of knowledge, which is knowing things about people without them necessarily telling me. So that's I'd liken that to be able to read between the lines, right? So someone can say something, and a lot of people will just take that for face value, whereas one of my spiritual gifts is I can actually see behind that, right? I can see the root of that, or I can discern what is not being said. Spiritual gift of giving, and the spiritual gift of giving is just giving to help others. I guess that could be classified as less fortunate than you, or people in need. I don't know. I've just always been willing to give the shirt off my back to help somebody out. One, because I know that God will always provide. Easier said than done, right? But so that belief allows me to, I guess, give freely without worrying maybe how I'll make that up, or when I'll get it back. And I got to be careful with that one too, because having that gift, you need to steward all these things on this whole thing with responsibility. It just doesn't necessarily mean you just go and rush into them 100%, because you have to use discernment when maybe you operate out of one of these traits or these skills or these personalities or these giftings. And then I have the spiritual gift of teaching, which is probably apparent as to what I'm doing here tonight. So definitely hope you take these things and you use them so that you can gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding in your own life. And then now we need to ask ourselves, like, what's the point of all this, right? Like, why Why should you take these tests? Why should you take the time to learn more about yourself? Well, a couple reasons. One, when you value the person that you are becoming, you can more authentically value the same in others, right? And I think that's part of why I'm so curious to get to know people on a deeper level, because I've taken the time to get to know myself. And think of it as like a puzzle, right? There's only certain pieces that come together and fit with other pieces. And when you know yourself and what kind of puzzle piece you are, when you come in contact with people, you're better equipped to know how you fit together with that person. I'm trying to think of. I think there's a. Oh man, I don't know the exact verse, but I believe it says. Jesus says, "You want to be all things to all men." Um, mm, mm. Doggone it! I shouldn't do that. I should know the verse before I tell you guys that. I should. But what that speaks to me is, right, it's kind of like almost like a chameleon, right? Like the better that you know yourself, the better you're able to adapt to the people you have to interact with, and in what situation you find yourself in. And never, 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 never from a point of manipulation. No, but from a point of bringing value and adding something to the relationship. Two, if we don't know who we are completely, then we can fall into unfulfillment and burnout. And this is extremely true. I talk to and interact with a lot of people who are searching, right? They're searching for purpose, and they're searching to know who they are. And that a lot of that, especially in the younger guys that I mentor, and I've been there too, right, is part of that discovery process is knowing the gifts that have been placed in you, knowing the personality that you have, knowing the strengths and the weaknesses that you bring to a situation. And then you'll be able to be better find fulfillment out in the world, because you won't chase things that go against those personalities, those giftings that you have inside you, right? Number 3, if we don't fully understand who we were created to be, the destiny designed for each of us can go unfilled. And that kind of goes along with point number 2. As your brother, I can tell you that only you can fulfill your destiny. There will never be another person in time, in history, who was created to do what you were created to do. There will never be another Mike King. Now, there's thousands of Mike Kings across the world, but there will never be another Mike King like this. And there is a certain purpose that I have in life that only I will fulfill. And that's somewhat scary, but exciting as well. And we need to do the work on ourselves and in ourselves so that we can fulfill this destiny and this purpose that we were given at birth. And then finally, if we don't fully understand who we are completely, we walk in comparison, in jealousy, in bitterness, in resentment, and fear, as we long for but don't find our place in the kingdom. And this isn't just a spiritual principle. You can replace kingdom for world, right? If you're not a spiritual person. It's crazy. I think about the times when, like, I guess a good analogy, right, is basketball. For me, I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't the strongest. I wasn't the highest jumper. I wasn't the best shooter. And at times in my journey, I was jealous of people that had those talents, right? That um, could jump higher than me, could shoot better than me, could do all these things. And it's a twofold thing, right? Because one, you know, we all have these natural giftings, but at the same time, it's our job and our ability to develop those. And in some areas of my game, I didn't take the time to really develop those, probably in comparison to what the other person did. Like, I mean, I worked on my ball handling, but I didn't work on my ball handling hours and hours and hours and hours upon hours like some of the ball handling wizards that I know. But, and at times I grew jealous, but I had to realize, like, I couldn't adopt that mind frame. I had to take with what I had, and I had to try to get the most out of what I had. So I learned my strengths. My strengths were I just had a nose for the ball. And that helped me be a really good rebounder, especially at my size. And I was naturally strong, which helps at being a good rebounder. And I had really good court vision. So what that enabled me to do is, even though I wasn't a natural point guard per se, I could go and I could get rebounds, and then I could quickly turn and make good passes up the court to get easy layups, or just take off with the ball and lead the fast break. So times in my life it worked for me. At times in my life I got a little carried away, and it didn't necessarily work out. But as I got older and I realized that that was one of my strengths, I could play to my strength, and I didn't have to worry about desiring to be able to jump like Vince Carter or to shoot like Curry. Those things would have been nice, but my goal was, the way I approached it was, I didn't have to be the person to shoot the game-winning shot. I didn't have to be the person to get the super slam dunk and make the crowd go crazy. If I was just the guy that set the back screen that led to the person being wide open for the layup to win the game, then so be it. Because I just wanted to win. I wanted the team to win. So I guess I say all that to say is, like, the more that you understand yourself and what you bring to the table, the better you're going to feel about yourself and what you have to offer in any situation that you come into. But a lot of people, they won't discover these things for themselves, and they let potential fear of discovering these good things and these things that they need to work on prevent them from even knowing them or acknowledging them in the first place. So I just want to encourage you, like, if that's you, don't be afraid of that, right? Because you are unique, and you have your own beautiful giftings in all of these areas. And I would encourage you to explore those and pursue those so that you can better understand the journey that you're on and the place that you play in this society and in the world. And you know what? We're all not going to be CEOs. We're all not going to be athletes. We're not all going to be these positions that the world says are so great and so lofty. But in reality, we're all going to play a significant role in the life of somebody else. Someone that we know and somebody that we might not know. And that's extremely important for you to realize, because there's someone that's always watching. And that was part of my story, right? Like, I grew up, I didn't have a dad around, and I was always watching the older guys and what they did. And many of those guys, unknowingly to them, sowed good seed inside my heart because of what they modeled for me and what they did. And they won't ever, some of them probably won't ever know that, right, on this side of life. But I say that just to bring home the point that if those guys wouldn't have took the time to approach life the way that they approached it, and to learn about themselves and be confident in who they were created to be, it wouldn't have had the effect that it had on me. And that's part of why we're responsible for taking these things that have been placed in us and developing them and growing in them. So that's it for tonight. I appreciate you guys checking out the Sunday sermon. I would just ask that if this has been valuable to you, that you would either tag somebody below in the comments, or that you would share this video and keep this stuff going around the interwebs, as some people call it. But I love you guys. If you need anything, hit me up. As you saw, it's one thing to say it, right, that I'm here for you, but let me just bring this back. Right? What's this say? Strength, supportive, reliable, patient. So this isn't me just saying, that I'm here for you. Like, this is who I am. So if you need to talk about something, if you need to get something off your chest, yeah, hit me up. I'd love to talk. We'll see you guys tomorrow for My Life Monday. Have a good night.